From the dawn of time, our ancestors have left us with the tales. Stories which speak of things that they have seen and lived alongside by, feared, respected, and even looked to some of them as godlike. Modern man refers to such things as spirits, extraterrestrials, demons, cryptids, creatures, and entities of all kinds, and so much more. These things and tales are now referred by most as myths and legends. But there are those of us that know what our ancestors spoke of was the truth. Those of us that have become obsessed in searching for answers and finding out the truth are here. We need the truth. This search brings us into the realm of the unexplained and unknown. It brings us on the trail. The search for living legends. Please join JR and I on the quest, and welcome to the search.
Search of Living Legends. It's going to be episode number 15. We are honored tonight to have a phenomenal researcher that I highly respect. We all do. Mr. Tobe Johnson. Tobe, it is an honor, man. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's an honor, man. You do great work, and we're happy to have you here, man.
Thank you.
And unfortunately, Gary could not be with us tonight. Gary is feeling a little bit under the weather. That's why you probably won't see my face in the in the playback when we post it, because I am not a techie. Something went down, but oh well, as long as we got good audio going. Anyway, we have Shawn Wilson. How's it going, my man?
Right now everything's great. Having a good time. Glad to be here. Probably better than I deserve, but yeah.
Things warming up down there, or what?
Yeah, we had a thaw out today and showed me some broken pipes that I had to fix, and yeah, we're all right though.
Good,
I mean,
good man. I was worried about you. I know you guys got wall up down there.
Oh man, yeah, it was
it's a lot of crazy weather going on across the country.
You got that right.
That's all right.
He just spoke.
Joe Biden's
actually,
gonna fix it all.
Yeah.
Anyway, we also joined by Mr. Nate Rod. Nate, what's going on, brother?
Hey, doing well, surviving, and glad to be here, and real thankful for Tobe coming on the show.
Absolutely.
Been a big fan of his for a long time, so this will be fun.
Absolutely. So, Tobe, the way we usually start this is just mind telling us a little about yourself and a little, how you got into this crazy business we're all so infatuated with, and that kind of little pedigree stuff.
How do you explain how you go down these rabbit holes?
Right.
My story is probably pretty similar in a lot of respects to young men that are interested in mysteries, and so for that, it may sound familiar to you guys, but I was raised on science fiction as an only child. I really sought out monster movies and sci-fi, and it was a late night matinee of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which really tells a story of a witness that becomes obsessed with a singular topic, and that was Roy Neary's character, played by Richard Dreyfuss, that was profoundly affected by a momentary event that shifted his worldview. And when he started making a mountain out of mashed potatoes and turning to his kids and saying, "This means something," that stuck with me throughout my adolescence and into my adult years. That would have been circa 1979, I guess, around that time. And fast forward to around, I think it was around the year 2007, my only son, and I were on a relatively routine trail in a suburb outside of Thurston, Oregon. And my son found an icy, muddy, human type, 5-toed, barefooted track going into the blackberry bushes. And I think it was around February. And so the print had either been there for a while or it was fresh. Either way, it erupted something very similar in him and me in that moment, because he was roughly around the same age I was when I heard that quote, "This means something." And that track seemed to mean something all over again to me. It took me back to, that year when I'd seen Close Encounters. And so we kind of followed up on what this trail of Bigfoot is based upon this single track. Now, the track most likely was either a hoax or it was a bear print, maybe a double step. But we put a scale object next to it and took a photograph, and ended up taking the photograph to a guy named Ron Olson, who was a family friend. And Ron was a producer and director of the movie Sasquatch, filmed up in Bend, Oregon. It was loosely based on Patterson and Gimlin's footage. And so he really had invested a lot of time and money into the subject all through the 70s and 80s and probably the 60s as well. And so he was nice enough to take a look at this photograph my son and I took. And, this is right at the dawn of smartphones. We've moved out of the flip phone age at this point. Now we're starting to have these little computers in our pockets. So to have a portfolio in your pocket nowadays is the new way for show and tell from everybody. And it was really the first photograph I ever showed, now that I think about it, that really ever meant anything. I didn't even have my son's pictures, after he was born on my smartphone. The first big event I think that happened probably was taking this Bigfoot picture with this Samsung Galaxy phone. And so I remember showing that off to Ron Olson. He said, well, it could could be anything, but Bigfoot's real. And so I'm not into the subject anymore, which I would like to get back to maybe why Ron Olson. Here's a guy immersed making movies. All his time and money is being poured into the subject of Bigfoot, and now he's not into it anymore. So this will be a theme maybe in our talk, which we can come back to, about these people that suddenly leave this community and don't even want to talk about it anymore. And so he set me up with my first interview, my first extended experiencer, which was this river guide. So after I met this river guide, it snowballed into this whole culture. There was this sleeping community that was well on its way to, to having a dialogue about something other than Gigantopithecus. And therein lies the rub of where everybody is now. Which direction are you going to go? Are you going to go with accepted science or fringe science? And so that's where the journey really got interesting, is at that crossroads.
Very good. Very cool. Very cool. And then you said, how big was that print again? You said when you found
it was, it was probably we put a camping whistle next to it that we picked up at a sporting goods store, and I happened to have it with me, and it wasn't much bigger than you would expect from a human-sized track. It just, there's a whole subculture of people out there that do winter barefooted hiking. And it was before Vibram sneakers, the 5-toed sandals, that people are out there doing barefooted hiking. I didn't know that was a thing, but it is a thing. It's not a real popular thing. I've never seen anybody walking in the ice or the snow barefooted. I did it just the other week to see how god awful it is to walk in fresh powder barefooted. And I called it like my Dyatlov Pass challenge, which nobody took me up on. And I literally just spent 5 minutes walking in powder to see what it felt like. And it is brutal. After about 5 minutes, you're ready to tear off your shirt to try to make a pair of socks. you start making, unrational decisions based upon the need of,
Right.
frostbite. So anyway, so it wasn't an impressive track, but it was impressive for the fact that it shouldn't have been there if it was a human track.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
and that's, it's interesting you say that, because you hear of a lot of these cases, where people, wind up missing, and they'll, well, where I'm going with this, but they'll find boots or something and
Mhm.
say, oh, the guy walked, 12 miles without any boots on.
Mhm.
And that they say that's the beginning, that's stages of hypothermia, correct? Is when, you're making irrational decisions. Like you said, you're getting ready to tear your shirt off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I know I wouldn't want to. I couldn't do it. That's for sure. Not my cup of tea. That's for damn sure.
No, I challenge anybody to try it in the fresh snow and see how long you can last, or even walk out on a frozen lake bed, which is another thing that people
Mhm.
apparently do as well. And it's a discipline all itself. I know there's a guy named Wim Hof, who's well known as the Iceman, who does a lot of cold water, daily cold water and cold experiments with his body, and claims that it boosts his immune system and gives him heightened awareness, and I'm sure it does. I'm sure it gives you all sorts of heightened stuff.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So tell us a little bit about where you're at right now with your work, if you don't mind, because I
Well,
gotta tell you, man, all of us here have been through, and I'm sure you've been there as well. We've all been through different stages, what these things are. And
mhm.
I started in the monkey camp, as I call it. And I know Shawn, we both did. I started out thinking it was some type of primate, but it's not how I feel anymore anyway. But you go through these theories, and one theory, something will happen, or it'll throw that theory out the window as soon as you think you have it. So just where are you at as far as your work?
Well, I'll throw it back to you guys, because I'm
Okay.
curious, as a guy that does a podcast as well
Yeah.
about this subject matter, where people are with this. And I would love to open this up as an open conversation. We
Sure.
can
Sure.
talk about all the weirdness too on top of it.
Absolutely.
But I don't even know if we know the right questions to ask. You know what I mean by that? Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know if we know, because the right questions aren't if Bigfoot exists.
Right.
Okay, we don't. The right question is, where is the evidence? Everybody seemed to be comfortable with their answer where the evidence is. I don't, my question is, what are the good questions to ask? Is the right question to ask, who are they? Is the right question, whether or not you're going to ask if they are. Maybe we should, ask who they are. And if you say something like that, that impacts a whole different type of implication of there being a culture,
It really
you know,
does.
and
Yeah.
do it, if they have a culture, it impacts all of this so much. I mean, these are really interesting, fun questions to have, but I feel kind of weird having these questions more and more, given the fact of where everybody is with unemployment and a massive pandemic. It feels silly at times to talk about these interesting esoteric questions about a man monkey, but
No.
in the end, somebody's got to have these questions here. Is it always appropriate to do it? But I'm curious, like, do you guys struggle with this as well? I mean, are you guys on the side of, well, this is a Gigantopithecus question?
I'm not afraid. Like I said, I've been through probably, God, 4 stages of these beliefs, and had theories on what they are. And I started out thinking some type of primate, and moved to different different lines of thought, but I've experienced so many weird happenings
Mm-hmm.
out in the field that just totally throws to me,
Mm-hmm.
threw that out the window. You know, and I'm not afraid to say it at this point, you know, almost 20 years of doing this. I don't know. I'm at that point, you know. You know, I kind of go along with, I think the Native Americans, you know, have it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, being part Native myself, I like to go with that line of thinking, you know. That's just me. I think they are a flesh and blood creature, but I think they have certain abilities that we don't understand yet. Absolutely.
And so Jeremiah and Nate, are you guys on the same page with that, or do you guys vacillate as a group to where everybody is? Because it's interesting to know where people are, because I'm going to say things that are extremely controversial.
Oh, that's even better.
It's not to be controversial, but I like to know where people are coming from.
Yeah.
Jeremiah, where are you at with this?
Oh, no, that was me. Yeah.
I mean, Shawn.
Shawn, yeah.
Oh, like Jeremiah, I was in the monkey camp because when I went looking for answers, okay, so I saw one, didn't believe in him until I saw one. Then all kinds of stuff. Hindsight is 2020. Now I know what screamed at me. Now I know what these weird sticks, you know, these fucking logs up in trees, or I mean, you know, okay, it all hindsight. So as far as what I think they are, I'm not going to say 100% that this is the definitive answer, but I believe, I'm a Christian, I believe the Bible. I believe that these are the bastard offspring of Nephilim. The Nephilim procreated with all kinds of weird shit. And I think we have different types of these things because the Nephilim bred with different types of monkeys or whatever, and humans. They definitely have abilities that are well beyond anything that we can do. They have self-illuminating eyes. That's not normal, you know. And maybe eventually science can prove all these weird things, but I think they can cloak. I don't know if they jump in and out of dimensions. I'm open to the idea.
Same, yeah.
I used to be a big, I still listen to Sasquatch Chronicles, but I remember the early days, they called them flute players. Anybody that believed anything that was kind of on the woo side, you know, they're all flute players, they're all idiots. And I honed in on that pretty quick, and I had a real, if anybody said anything somewhat controversial, I would just skip it and go to the next one, you know. But now I'm open to anything. There's too many people that see too much weird shit, including myself, and you can't explain this with the Gigantopithecus theory. You can't explain miles and miles of trackways just stopping.
Mm-hmm.
And a vast open space where people say they tiptoe backward. Bullshit.
Love that one.
So
yeah, I gotta agree with you on all that.
I don't know what they are, but I kind of like Scott Carpenter's view. I'm reading his book right now. And believing in the Bible and being a Christian and believing that the Nephilim existed, I think these things have something to do with the Nephilim. That's my personal belief, and that could change. It's fluid. I mean, somebody show me a different hypothesis that makes more sense, and I'll definitely take a look.
Yeah,
you know,
and
my
Nate,
mind is open.
Nate,
Yeah.
you're kind of in the same category or territory.
Absolutely. I kind of line up with Shawn. the thing I always go back to is why have they been covering so much up from us over the centuries? You can go back to the 1600s when they took parts of the Bibles out and part of the Bible out and hid it away.
Yeah.
The book of Enoch.
Yeah.
What were they hiding there? And then fast forward to the 1800s, the turn of the century, when up all these giant bones. These farmers in the Midwest and back east, finding these giant bones, these 8 to 10 foot skeletons, and you can look at newspaper articles going, there was dozens and maybe hundreds of them back then. It wasn't really hidden. It was kind of a common thing that they'd report in the newspapers. And then, all of a sudden the Smithsonian would come in and take the bones and they'd never be seen again. So you start putting this stuff together, and I don't know if it's all directly linked, but, they're hiding all this from us for a reason. It's like they don't want us to know our true history. And, I'm kind of like Shawn, that maybe they are the bastard offspring of Nephilim. There's all these different types, and there's dogmen and all these other entities that people see. And then I look to the First Nations. We can't dismiss that knowledge, all of their knowledge with this. And they believe they were a people, a tribe, not an animal. All the translations of what they had, the names they had for these things, all translated to a people or a tribe or whatever, but none of it was translated to an animal. So I think we have to take that, we have to, weigh that in our thoughts and theories and all that. And, and then all the weird stuff, like Jerimiah was saying, the more I do this, the weirder it gets. We have incredibly loud tree knocks behind our tent. We rush out of the tent with our flashlights, look around the whole tree line everywhere. Don't see a thing. Don't hear anything running away. Screams in the night. I still haven't seen one, but I've been real close to them. Just the way they elude us and the way they stay hidden. There's something more going on that we just don't understand. So, I definitely, I lean towards that side of it. It's definitely not an ape or an animal. That's where I'm at on it. That's my opinion.
Right. And as it went down here, I've taken notes with everybody because you all bring up stuff that, just strikes a chord with me. And the First Nation stuff, well, let's talk about that. Back in around 2010, I did a conference called the Oregon Sasquatch Symposium. And we had about 10 speakers or something like that. And I was aiming for a native Oregonian, from a local tribe to show up. And there was a gal named Esther Stutzman who was known for relating oral tradition. And she would go to universities or schools and tell oral history of the Kalapuya tribe. And so I was aiming for her because she was well-spoken and nearby. And she wouldn't let me even bring up Bigfoot on the phone with her until it was the correct season. So I had to wait. I think it was till the fall to talk to her and say the name Chichu Chippy, which is the Kalapuya word for Bigfoot, which I didn't know. But it let me into this fragile doorway of working with Native Americans, because you have to have patience talking to Native Americans in a way that our culture is not used to. Like they don't believe in linear time. They believe in circular time, and it all comes in through their culture. And so that was a pain in the ass for me in the beginning, because I had no idea how to deal with it. And I had an event coming, but I really wanted this gal. And so I respected what she had to say, and I waited. And she just showed up and spoke hesitantly to all of us about Chichu Chippy. And, she tells the story, like you were saying, Nate, about, the First Nations people and all the different names. And they all basically say this is a hairy brother, and it's a spirit animal. It's also on our totem pole, along with other things that we believe in that, are here on this earth. And then that's when I met Henry Franzoni, because he was also writing a book about the same phenomena called The Spirit of Siatko, which talks about place names. So you know, in 2007, I find this track with my son. I begin this journey of looking into talking to extended experiencers, start putting on events in order to immerse myself into this addiction I have of seeing a Bigfoot and getting closer to talking to people that will take me to experience this. Because I really hadn't at that point. And it was in meeting someone like Henry Franzoni, really the first interview I ever did was with a guy, you know, the scientist who lives here in Washington State. And so his book, Spirit of Seattle, basically the whole premise of it is that, you know, Bigfoot is related to quantum mechanics. If you want to get close to Bigfoot, you have to embrace Nikola Tesla. And he's saying outrageous stuff to me in this interview about how Bigfoot blew up his starter on his car, how Bigfoot can cloak, how Bigfoot laughed at him and his wife in Tillamook. And then he's like, if you want to find them, then you need to go to where these place names are, like devil, spirit, whatever the spookier name is, right? Either the white guy gave it or an Indian gave it, whatever sounds crazy or spooky, like Wendigo or Booger,
Yep.
or Skookum.
Yep.
That's where, you know, he had his encounter. And so Henry Franzoni was funded by the government to study Bigfoot under the auspices that they were looking for white-tailed deer. And he did it up in, I believe, the Mount Hood Wilderness area with Peter Byrne and a guy named John Glickman. And they did it for, I believe, over 5 years and were paid by the state to do it. And people can look that up. It's called the Glickman Report. And nobody's read it. Nobody hardly even really knows about it unless you're a super Bigfoot nerd. But I would suggest people look into it. And I hear a Bigfoot in the background there.
I just did too.
I'm sorry, my family, they're playing darts in the next room. And
What? I like it.
somebody's winning.
Yeah. So that really led me into understanding the importance of people that are talking about these First Nation names and First Peoples names, which calling the Native Americans First People, now looking into the Viking history. I don't know who really the first people are here anymore. I'd be curious to see more information about the Vikings' take on Bigfoot, because you start getting into Norse culture and you start getting into, you know, trolls and gnomes,
Ogres,
and,
yeah.
ogres. It gets into the world of Bigfoot again. So, that's how it started. And I had to pick sides. Either I was going to start listening to both sides and writing this fence, but I wanted to get, you know, I see time as finite. You know, I have this Western culture here. I'm not looking at it circular. I have, you know, I think they said 81 years for an adult male now in America to live. So the clock's ticking. I want to get to the answers here as quick as I can. So I slowly start to discount, the accepted science path, not because it was easier just to believe all the BS of the flute players, but the flute players were having more fun. Okay. They were way more relaxed, but they were getting results. And I wouldn't have gone out. You know, we used to have this old colorful thing that we'd say it'd be my gas for their hairy ass. So whoever's paying the gas bill, you can go look for Bigfoot however you want. You know, and it takes a lot of money to do this sometimes, right? And I was basically an ambulance chaser going out to, you know, BFRO sightings that could have been 5 or 10 years. All that BS was just, it was bringing me down. But when I got to understand Sally Shepard Walford, who wrote the book Valley of the Skookum, and she told this really interesting, true account that was almost, it sounded fictionalized, and it read like, you know, a fantasy novel. And it told the story of her and her daughter, Autumn Williams, out in the Carbon River,
Yeah.
and how they grew up with the Bigfoot phenomenon around them. But Sally would say outrageous things, that the footprints would, you know, come around her cabin, but there'd be no body attached to them. As she would see them, they would mind speak, and, you know, she was getting into the lights. So when someone explained to me that you could go out here and experience these lights in Bigfoot areas. I said, okay, if I can get some kind of cross-pollination with these phenomena and UFO, that'll be my first connection that these flute players have been dismissed without cause. So give me these lights on one occasion in a hot Bigfoot spot, then I will pay attention more to the likes of Henry Franzoni. Well, that happened. And so it happened on 3 or 4 occasions. It happened on a large scale in the town of Wheter, Oregon. And it was an extended experiencer Bigfoot hotspot. Then it happened again a couple months later in the same exact spot. And then it happened again in a recent sighting area where there's also coincidentally missing people cases. And so as soon as I began to believe that the flute players or the people that believe in something outside of accepted science, generally it's these extended experiencers that have the weirder shit. That's when life got a lot easier. You know, it was almost like if you're working that hard to have an experience, maybe the payoff in the end will be, you know, total elation because you work so hard to have it. But I think that you can do this in a relaxed state. And it's the difference between going to looking for Bigfoot or having them come to you. And if you believe that you have to run out there and look for them, eventually you're going to get burnout, and maybe you're going to end up like this Ron Olson guy that I told you about, this director that is just like so fed up that he's been outsmarted and outwitted by a mere animal. Even Doug Hychek, the creator of Monster Quest. Here's a guy that's invented every kind of camera system, including one that he was able to find one of the largest squids in the world with. Very smart engineer scientist. And a Bigfoot guy, and, you know, has been outsmarted by Bigfoot, you know, with all the technology he's had. So to have those kind of conversations with people that haven't left their brain at the door, and they're frustrated, and the stuff that people will tell you when the cameras go off, that really changed everything.
Yeah, for sure. Tobe, we have a saying between the guys here on this show. We say you've been tagged, and by that we mean that once you've had an experience and once you accept these things and you're aware of them, it seems like you have a lot of experiences. It's almost like there's some kind of spiritual side to this where they know that you're a knower, and like you said, you don't have to really, when we had our hunting camp encounter, they came to us, we were hunting, you know, it was the last thing we expected, but I had experiences before that. And I mean, you just have to be aware, and they're out there, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know if I said that the best, but
no, that was good. You know, and I'm in agreement. You guys, the lights, you know, you bring up the lights, Tobe, and, you know, that's something, you know, I would have laughed at this stuff 6 years ago. You know, I would have laughed at it and, you know, said, you know, these guys are freaking nuts. But, you know, every Bigfoot hotspot that I researched, including the one in North Carolina, I believe I sent you a piece of video footage, didn't I?
Yeah.
You know, I had that happen in every spot. There is some sort of freaking correlation between these, whatever you want to call them, these forest lights and these creatures. I hate calling them creatures, but for lack of a better term, target species. There's some sort of correlation, you know. And I've had people say, "Oh, it's you were watching a satellite," or okay, no, I don't think so. Now, and it's following us around our spot for over an hour, and not getting any higher than 30 feet off the ground and staying within 60 feet of us. You know, that's to me that's showing intelligence. You know,
have you guys seen the Tommy Cooper orb?
We
footage?
I talked to Jason Trost about it actually last week. I interviewed Jason a couple of weeks ago, and
Okay.
we know them well. And I had not seen it. But,
Yeah. I'll send you a link to it if he
Okay.
doesn't have it up, but he's
haven't
got some of the best footage of a solid ball of light on FLIR.
wow.
Close range. I mean, it takes up the whole screen,
Ooh,
and it is moving freely in front of the camera, not hiding at all.
right.
And it, you know, I defy anybody to tell me how he did that as far as being, I mean, that would have taken CGI.
Exactly.
But you know, it's not CGI. It's an organic ball of light, and these have this, you know, organic jellyfish kind of, you know, bioluminescence,
Exactly.
living light quality to them. We've seen them roll out of the woods and dissipate, kind of like
Mhm.
I don't know, like glitter and mixed with milk wash,
Yes.
if that makes any sense. But
Yes,
just
it
this,
does.
if it, almost like it would make a splash sound when it opens up, but you know, there's no sound with these things. In fact, most of these paranormal experiences get into this absence of sound, and you'll hear that from abductees where they talk about there being a devoid of people, a devoid of sound. Vacuum is another word that they use, and that moment becomes so consolidated to the experience that you can hear it on a recording, or you could hear it on a video, the difference in the sound. So it's not like they're suddenly having an adreno dump and where you know they've have concentrated energy. No, not if you can record this stuff here. And sometimes the recorders just plain malfunction. So if we're talking about a man monkey here, a missing link, why do recorders and digital equipment, why do we have battery failure? I mean, this belongs in the world of the supernatural, right? Just like when we were kids going into our library at school, you go and you see the Bermuda Triangle and telekinesis and Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster and alien. Well, why is Bigfoot here? You know, just because it's unexplained, we're going to put it in the, you know, mysterious encounters spot. I don't think that that's the real reason why. It's because of all of the open-ended questions at the end of the day about where this lack of evidence is here, you know, because the lack of evidence is the evidence that there's something else going on here other than just regular science. In my opinion, you know, we should have so much more if this is just a mere physical creature.
Right.
Exactly, Tobe. And one of my simple arguments is if this thing was an ape or an animal, we'd have hundreds of game cam pics of these things.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, every animal on the planet has been caught by a game cam.
Yep.
So
how many cameras? I think it's over 100 cameras the Olympic Project has deployed right here in my own backyard. And you know, they put a lot of boots on the ground, a lot of money, a lot of energy out here, and it's frustrating to not have the kind of evidence that they should have, given the hot spots where they know these hot spots are. Let's just get into Rich Jerimiah, right? Ex-OP member, ex-law enforcement guy.
Just interviewed
Rich
him.
tells you exactly what's on his mind. You've interviewed him, and Rich is an intense guy, right?
Yes.
He's an intense guy, but he doesn't bullshit you. He tells exactly what he experienced, how it was. And so to sit down with someone like that, which you can do on a regular basis, you know, Rich may seem kind of rare for the fact of his background, but these kind of guys exist all over the planet. And you know, the idea that someone is discounting Rich over his experiences, it just amazes me because of the wealth of knowledge that he could bring to the table to this community.
Absolutely. The thing there too is we've got tens of thousands of people have come forward with their stories and their encounters, and they've on one platform or another they've expressed what they, you know, what happened to them. Only one of them needs to be true. Just one. I tend to be more I believe people. Why not all people, of course. I mean, some people are looking for attention, like that idiot who says he's got one in his freezer and he's got the head and all that shit, you know. But for the most part, there's tens of thousands of people that have. There's more people that see these things than see mountain lions, you know.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And there's footprints and there's DNA and there.
Mhm.
For me, there's plenty of evidence to back it up. There is a cover up going on, though, for
Absolutely.
sure. The governments don't want us to know what they know for whatever reason, and I think that's for me that's like the end goal. I want the government. We finally have, and this trips me out too. The government, Canada and the United States have now admitted, yeah, there's UFOs visiting the planet, unidentified flying objects from somewhere else. It happens. It just does. Why isn't that like that? That should be like huge news. But
Yeah.
instead, we're going to talk about the Paris Climate Accord or whatever bullshit, political bullshit's going. You know, I mean, there's like that's a big deal. We've got aliens coming to this planet from wherever, and nobody's fucking talking about it. That's
Yeah.
nuts.
It is.
That's nuts.
It gets mocked.
So, and I
on,
think
though.
if
it still
Bigfoot
gets
ever
mocked.
comes out, right? If Bigfoot ever is like,
Mhm.
you know, acknowledged, they'll wash over it. It'll be the programming. They'll program you not to care about it too much. Well, yeah, it exists, but so what? We have more things to talk about. We need to talk about, you know, this Starbucks having transgender people do fucking book readings to little kids, shit like that.
Yeah.
It's important.
I don't know.
You know,
There's plenty
and
of
The important stuff.
There's plenty of distractions, isn't there? Yeah.
Oh
oh
my
yeah,
God.
oh yeah, oh yeah. And that's the other, you know, not to go off the topic, but you know, then there's still people out there denying the existence of, you know, extraterrestrial life. You know, it's a mathematical impossibility that we are the only planet. You know what I mean, with intelligent life. Aside from a planet, you know, let's talk about, you know, other dimension. That's that to me. That's more. That's kind of where I'm headed now, and I'm not afraid to say it anymore. You know, we talked about this, Nate and Shawn. You guys weren't at the last roundtable show, but we kind of hit on it a little bit. And if you remember, Nate, we hit on it with Carter last week. You know, why you see in one footprint, you know, the one footprint, or the, you know, just the one. Okay. Well, you know, and yes, I'm gonna say it. And this is another thing I would have laughed at 6 years ago, is the whole portal idea. You know,
Right.
am I open to that now? Absolutely. You know, Shawn, your theory, am I open to that? Absolutely. I mean, there's just so much more to this, and it's so it's frustrating in a way, you know,
Well,
because
it's so much cooler than the other theory.
absolutely.
So I mean, you know, it's always like it reminds me of the days when people would listen to top 40 radio, and then
Yeah.
you'd find like a really cool, you know, like death metal or alternative
Right.
band, and you find their bootleg. Like, we're in the bootleg death
Yeah.
metal crowd, and
Yeah,
everybody else is listening to top 40. I was just like, oh man, we're in the cool spot. I don't really, you know, as much as I talk about this, I don't really want them to go there and spoil all the fun that we're having here and bring all their top
Right.
40 bullshit.
yeah,
So
right.
it feels like we're in the, you know, the cooler club. And you know, it's it just not, I was going to say it just feels right, but that's not true. It's where the evidence lies, is in this counter reality, that you know, these counter conversations that are had. Let me show you this here real quick, because we could talk about the Al Moon lab. We can have that conversation too, but let's talk about Bigfoot as we know them. Now, I'm not saying what I'm going to show you is related specifically
Mhm.
to Bigfoot, but it does ask a wider question about who's coming to this house, because I live with an extended experiencer. My girlfriend Erin, she grew up around here in the Olympic Peninsula, and she had a horse stall next door where she would have her horse feed taken. 50-gallon drums would be empty the next day. Mushrooms would be tossed at her while she was out repairing fences. There would be braids, and but then there's also ghost, and then there's Maury Island UFO stuff, military bases all over around here, Bremerton, and a sub base. So there's interesting stuff around this place. So we met at a Bigfoot convention and fell in love after our mutual passion. And she's like, yeah, and I've got this cabin in the woods. Why don't you come up here? So I did. And this was well after I was immersed in the supernatural Bigfoot connection in Cottage Grove, Oregon, with this guy named Daryl Adams, who, we shared his property together for about 2 years and studied the phenomena of UFOs, ghost, and Bigfoot, and chronicled as best we could with audio and video. And there's a documentary coming out called Flash of Beauty. And then there's Tim Renner's book, Where the Footprints End, where they talk about us. So there's a way to hear this story here if we don't get into it. But the phenomena...
Sorry, guys, my internet just went out for some reason.
Okay, we can hear you.
Seems like as we were getting on this talk.
Oh, yeah.
Start talking, it's a little weird. Anyway. Sorry.
So the phenomena has a way of tipping its hat to you. Now, let's just say this is Bigfoot. We don't really know what it is, but it has a lot of Bigfoot attributes, like the ferns will be woven together. You'll find gifts left in strange places. So about a month and a half ago, we had a fire and we had a friend over, and she's a Bigfooter as well. And so we're sitting out there and we're trying to find the fire poker to poke the fire outside. And so we had this conversation, like, where's the fire poker, blah, blah, blah. So she left, and the next day, this 4.5 tall stick with a honed tip and a blunt edge was placed by the axe and the broom on the front porch. Well, things like this happen kind of regularly around here. So I kind of played it off as like maybe Erin set a stick there and she played it off like I did. Well, it was the phenomena. Somebody came up, because it's just us two here in a cabin in the woods, and you have to go through 2 fences and dogs to come up here and leave this giant stick. And sitting next to the stick was, I don't know if you can make this out, some fingerprints on the window.
Oh, wow.
The fingerprints are very small and human-like, but they were greasy. And that's one of the things that you start to look for regarding this phenomena is this, what has been played off too much as being dusty handprints. But according to Shelley Covington, Montana, who's coined this term albivernix, which is this white chalky mucosa, when you see that near a gift, or you see one of these deeper than deep footprints near a gift, I think that might be the trademark of a Sasquatch. And so these are dusted prints. I just went on Amazon and pulled these off. Now they're a pretty good match for a human print, but we dusted my print, which I have here, which I won't show because people can do crazy stuff with that. And then we dusted Erin's prints. And anybody can do this. I mean, you can have your science conversation and do some really cool stuff with Bigfoot. You can see friction ridges somewhat on here as well. You can get a little magnetic dusting kit from Amazon and the wand and the tape and be all CSI and have some fun and start chronicling this weird family member, that you haven't met yet, coming and going from your property. So the conversation about extended experiencers is a pretty exciting one, because a lot of people just aren't having it. Like if you wanted to get to know the phenomena like Jane Goodall, you'd have to go live in the woods and pull a Les Stroud and be out there just, for weeks at a time, coming back to clean up and going out there. You don't have to do that. You can embrace these extended experiencers. And if they'll have you, if you're not a jackass,
Right.
you can go there and experience the phenomena. And hell, it will follow you home, most likely, because it's so entrenched with the supernatural and your motives. Like whatever's going on here totally likes to look at your intent. If your intent is to
Yes.
trick it, it's going to get tricky back. And it may get scary because it doesn't like ego involved. Like it doesn't like the male ego, like, oh, I'm going to figure this shit out. It doesn't work well with it. Like you can do it. I still find myself tempted to go out there and roughhouse, but it comes in so much. It comes in really close and intense if you have this machismo, egotistic, I'm going to solve the attitude, or it just completely leaves. So you got to find these sweet spots, which I call them sweet spots at extended experiencer houses, and hang out in those sweet spots, which could literally be like a 12-inch by 12-inch area. Whatever it is about those 12 inches on this spot, that's where things seem to coalesce. The gifts will show up. So that's what happened at this property here in Cottage Grove, bypassing 15 years or thereabouts of moving from Gigantopithecus acceptance into the flute player world, or this counter reality spectrum. Then you meet someone like Daryl Adams, who says, I'm a Bigfooter. My brother's a Bigfooter in Oklahoma. And I just moved down the road from this lake bed where you cast all these footprints. And why don't we hang out sometime and go deer hunting? And, maybe we'll find some Bigfoot tracks as well. So I took him up on this offer back in 2017, I think it was. And he'd drawn an elk tag, I believe, on Good Friday in 2018. That's right. It was a Friday afternoon. It was a full moon too. So he just picked up a new pickup truck or new to him pickup truck. And we ended up coming across this clay embankment, and the hunt hadn't gone that well. We didn't see anything. And we saw these two pockets of mud disturbed, or red clay. And I said, Daryl, back up the truck. And so as we got in close on this, we could see that there was hair flow going into these hairy pockets, right off the skid road. And there was black hair coming up out of it. And you could see anatomy. You could see bone. You could see what looked like knee placement of a right and left knee. And then we saw these white branches about 100 yards behind it after we kind of snooped around in the daylight. And these white branches are key to this area as far as there being activity. And we didn't really know that at the time, but they're leaning up against the tree behind the kneecaps. And all the other places we found these white branches seem to be productive areas in this particular Umpqua forest. So we picked the hairs up, we rolled film, we stayed there till midnight, and we sent the hairs out to a gal named Cindy Dosen in Canada. And it's hard to send stuff to Canada like that, but we found a way to do it. And she said, these are unknown hairs, not from any known animal that I've cross-referenced, and they are number 7 hair samples of unidentified probable Bigfoot hairs out of like 200 samples. And so luckily we'd cast these impressions, and we had a guy from Boeing do a weight displacement measurement, like how big was the subject here? Now that we know it's not an ungulate or a bear, and we're in the human category, how big a human is this with hairy knees? And a guy named Scott Taylor, who was a Boeing engineer, came back with like plus or minus 1,400 pounds.
Whoa.
Which, it blew my mind. I don't even like to say that number because it just sounds in the ridiculous category. And maybe that's pounds per inch as far as pressure, but I did I did my own kneecaps in the same substrate so he could take a medium and say, okay, same substrate, same time of year. Here's the medium number. So we came back with over 1,000 pounds. And then we had a sonographer from a hospital here in Seattle look at them and talk about why these are knee impressions. So as soon as we brought those knees down to Daryl's house and put them in the garage, all of the crazy shit started to happen. Mel Scahan, Yakima Native American, friend of Bob Gimlin, well-known Bigfooter, will talk at length about taking body parts from Sasquatch home with you, hair included, and the consequences of doing it. And I think there is some kind of a trade-off, like, oh, you're inviting us home. You're basically taking a piece of us home with you so we can come check you out, right? And we can take little things of yours as well. And so I warned Daryl and his wife, Cindy, who are, registered Republican, Christian, God-fearing, meat and potato people, just like, hey, it's about to go down here. Like it's already getting weird, but I think I've heard your neighbors talking, and they're talking about a blue-eyed bear walking up to their house. Your other neighbor is telling me that a cat was delivered with a smushed head. His cat that went missing for 2 weeks and suddenly ends up at his screen door with a smushed head, like something found it and delivered it to him. And the gal back there in the yurt says that she gets pine cones thrown at her. And they're seeing a flying chandelier come in at 30 feet underneath the canopy, shining lights down at the farmer over here. It's about to get weird, Daryl. Are you ready for it to get weird? And Daryl's funny. His line is, I was normal till I met you. I was normal till I got here. And so things just went completely bonkers. And everything you guys mentioned, disappearing tracks, that phenomena presented itself in the gravel bed around his house, because the front drive and the road in was all gravel. And we would find unusual, larger than life, deeper. I mean, to leave a track in the mud is one thing, but to leave a track in gravel and go down into the hard pan, it would almost take like a cement shaker, like a vibration tool of some kind, which maybe that's the more interesting theory about what's happening here when they come into existence. Maybe there is some kind of vibration happening here that we can't appreciate. And so we just had a ball with it, and it's still happening. We've had we've definitely had confirmation that it's Bigfoot activity, because Daryl saw Bigfoot twice. And I think I saw the feet of a Sasquatch approaching me at 4 a.m. on his property behind my Jeep. And the reason I think it was Bigfoot is because when it ran, it didn't make any sound. And I don't attribute that to a hoaxer. And it was in the gravel. It made the initial crunch when it heard me awake at 4:30, but when it spun around and screamed like Jurassic Park and ran without making a sound, I put it in the category of a Bigfoot.
Hey, Tobe, can I ask you a question? You're still on the Cottage Grove property, right?
No. So I live up here in the Olympic Peninsula. I've been up here 2 years.
No, I mean, that story you were just telling, was that Cottage Grove?
Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't you get some evidence inside your trailer there, or one of you guys? Can you talk about that just a little bit? Maybe prints or something? Rich told me a little bit about that, and I've been wanting to ask you about it.
Yeah. So things would happen inside the house as well, including these white chalky handprints.
Oh my God.
And one time I found one on my head. Now, I don't know how to attribute that to Bigfoot, except to say I had a white chalky handprint on top of my head. And it doesn't look like, baking powder. It's different. It's almost like a lotion, which is weird, or an oil. And we also found these chalky handprints inside the house, infused into the guest bedroom. And it looked like gnarled 4 fingers of a little child's hand pressed up against the guest bedroom door. And Doug Hychek speaks more directly about what this white chalky substance actually does. It changes at the molecular level what it touches, especially with polymer plastics. And so they don't come off that easy. Like the first handprints I saw was from a buddy of mine where he got shaken out of his hammock. And whatever did it, grabbed the top of the hammock and shook him out because he's an aggressive snorer. And that handprint is still in his hammock today. And it was one of the first times I ever saw it. And it looked like somebody had fried chicken, grabbed the top of the hammock, and you could see, the folds of the skin and the whole, craziness. Well, a lot of times, these things happen to automobiles where the handprints or the fingerprints don't come off of the paint. Doug Hychek's theory is that it's actually gone in there and destroyed some of the material at the, molecular level, and you won't be able to get it out. And so we found those. I found something like that again on my head. And then I found a piece of petrified wood in my trailer in the sink. And Daryl found rocks on his Persian rug. When he'd get home, they'd be sitting right there in the middle. These are all common occurrences in hauntings. And a lot of people say, oh, my house is haunted. But I also have Bigfoot stuff, and they don't think the two are connected. I think they're totally connected.
They are totally fucking connected. And pardon my language, but when you mentioned the handprints, thank you, because I thought I was imagining the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly what you're talking about, and I'm trying to find the picture right now. I saw it. We used to see him in, oh my God, a feeling I have right now. Shawn, remember when I lived in North Carolina?
Yeah.
Well, we had a really hot spot down there. So, tell me, we live on a piece of property. It's on activity as well. Well, we moved to North Carolina, and all of a sudden, that's why a lot of people out here full of shit. Because I'm, and that's why I believe, like Nate, you said, what's the expression? You're tagged.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel.
Right.
Like I'm tagged or something. But we used to see our spot was this old train trestle. Okay. And one night we're sitting there, and I look and I said, "What the hell is that on that column, on that post?" And my wife, she's heavy duty into the paranormal as well. She's got a lot of very interesting gifts. But anyway, she said, "That's a handprint," and I said, "No." I said, I said, "Handprint? Are you out of your mind?" So I look a little bit closer, and sure enough, it's a friggin' handprint. And I couldn't believe it. And it's this white material.
Mm-hmm.
And the water, with the post that this handprint is on, you're talking 4 feet of water, moccasin, alligator infested water. And like I said as well, this is not a human hand. Very long. For the digits are extremely long, with the thumb very short in proportion.
Right.
So bizarre, man.
You have a photo of that, Jerimiah, somewhere?
I'm finding it right now, and I'm gonna send it to you. You guys,
after the show or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just amazing. I wish I knew how to screen share, because I show you right now, and it's the same thing with the eyes, man. Like Shawn, you said, the self-illumination. Years ago, I was on the boat. Hey, you got to shine a light in their eyes to get back eye shine. Bullshit. No.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how they do it, but they do it. I can't deny what I've seen in my own eyes.
Yeah, that's something I haven't seen yet, which I've tried so hard. Trust me, I've tried so hard to see eye shine, and I've always fallen short. I mean, it sounds
fluorescent blue. I've got fluorescent blue, fluorescent green, red, Amber.
And you-
It just when we watched this happen to, we could hear them coming out of the bayou as we're sitting on the train trestle. We could hear them walking out, you know. And my wife likes to go black completely. You know, we were just down there chilling. We weren't intending on investigating or anything. It was our spot. We go and just relax and, you know, just to wind down from the day after work or whatever. And
Right.
you know, we could hear them coming out of the bayou, and you know, we couldn't see anything. And then all of a sudden, one by one, boom, 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 boom. There's successive eyes.
Hey,
at different-
Jeremiah,
Yeah,
you have some video of that at your
I
property.
do. And yes, and good point, Nate. And now it's happening here as well. So, yeah,
You should send Tobe some of that video after the show. That's pretty compelling.
I'm
stuff.
going to. It's very compelling, and yeah, it just. I'm so glad that someone other than myself mentioned a handprint like that. So
And you've got that UFO. You've got UFO footage. I've seen
in
that.
the same. Yes, in the same. That's right. Yeah. So in these so-called hotspots, there's so many. There's different types of phenomena going on in these hotspots.
Right.
You know, all in one area. So
Well,
that's
down in my area, we've got UFOs, we've got
Right.
orbs, and Bigfoot. I've got all three things going on
exactly.
at the same time.
And then I see a bird one night with a 15-foot wingspan. I mean, and it was like nothing. I know it sounds crazy. People think we've listened to this conversation and think we've all lost it. But you know, we were on our way down there to relax once again, and my wife looked at me and she said, "I've got a really weird feeling right now. Like we just crossed into something." I said, "What the hell are you talking about now?" You know, just kind of playing it off. And we're sitting there, and something just told us to look up, and we look up, and there's this bird flying over the top, no more than 40 feet in the air. And I'm telling you, the only thing I can compare it to is a condor, a massive condor. And as far as I know, we don't have condors on the East Coast, and not many in North America altogether. You know, so. And this is all in one tiny spot, one little old train trestle.
I mean, if people want to go to an area and they don't have a place like you have, Jerimiah or Shawn or Nate, they can go to the Montana Vortex, Joe Hauser's spot. I think his season starts to open up again around June. They've had a really bad winter. And I believe it's in Columbia Falls, Montana.
Tell us about that a little. I'm not really familiar.
So Joe Hauser is under the radar Bigfooter, really, with a lot of stuff. And so he owns the Montana Vortex, which is, you know, supposedly just there's a attraction along the side of one of the highways there. But it's beneath a mountain that also is known for Thunderbird sightings and UFO sightings. I know that, you know, Dave Paulides is out that way too. And they've both had interesting stuff happen in the sky as well. Joe talks freely about the UFO phenomena that happens out that way, but he also has Bigfoot phenomena. And so what is the Montana Vortex? Well, the Montana Vortex is basically where physics change and become liquid. You know, up is down, down is up. Yes, things seem as though they may just be a roadside attraction to collect money, but you can go into the Montana Vortex and play, and Joe will show you how quantum physics can be manipulated there. And you can't walk away and debunk it. And he's had some really interesting people show up there to try to debunk some of the stuff that's happened, that happens at his place regularly. But one of the things that happens there is Bigfoot stuff. And he's got some really interesting video that he's going to hopefully release soon regarding what looks like, you know, plasma state Sasquatch in one of the areas they're kind of manipulating intermittently upside down, right side up, circling the camera. You know, it was on the behest of, I believe, Joe Hauser saying, hey, why don't you show yourself to people and show yourself in your original state? Like, what do you really look like? We know this Bigfoot version of you, but what's your normal form? And so that's when he gets this incredible footage of what looks like a conical shaped head and shoulders floating around his camera in this plasma state. Now, these things show up also on game cams, but a lot of people think it's just IR illumination overexposure. We got that also with a guy named Mark Parker at the Owl Moon Lab. Mark was a bow hunter and believed in the Gigantopithecus theory, had a recent sighting before he went to our area to experience the stranger stuff, and ended up seeing these red lights rise up out of the forest. I believe he said they were 50 feet up right in front of him off the old skid road going down the gulch. And Daryl, was 2 years into the weirdness and basically said, it's, if the red ones show up, things might get weirder quicker, which I think is true. Orange and red lights, just in general, are more aggressive. And that just kind of goes with the behavior and the color of it, I guess. I mean, the white ones seem very passive and fleeting, and they're almost like little sparks of energy. The red and orange ones are like, oh, here comes the big show. And so he ended up seeing a 10-foot tall Sasquatch, less than, I believe he said, 25 feet away from him on his, he had a really nice, it wasn't a recordable FLIR, but it was a scope. And so he's watching it come up towards him and Daryl, and they got the hell out of there. But, here's a guy that was changed by the phenomena and can't go back now. I interviewed him like less than a half hour after he'd had this experience. And it's very rare that you meet people that experience the phenomena as it presents itself in the supernatural form, and they walk back on their encounter and say, no, it's not that. It's very rare to find those kind of people. Now I've had a chance to sit down with a couple of them, John Brown, who had a lot of experiences like we're discussing, and walked it back and said, no, I toyed with the idea that these were supernatural in some nature, but it's just unexplained science, and I'm waiting for science to catch up with the answers. Well, you could say that about anything, but this is so much bigger than unexplained science, because at what point do you see a cryptid and your spiritual and religious values suddenly change? You don't see a snow leopard and suddenly it compels your worldview to shift. You don't see, something else is happening here on a level which gets into a little bit of the territory with the Nephilim. I don't know what the answer is with this here, as far as where people's faith is in messing with this phenomenon and getting to know it well, because I think the question is, who are they? Not what are they, but who are they? And there is this humanity to them that is a lot like your neighbor, and they're very elusive, got you there, but they want to get to know individuals, and it doesn't seem demonic. Now, I think Rich was put in a spot early or later in his experience where he felt like it was challenging his faith, and he wasn't willing to go there with the phenomena. I've never had that experience before, where I felt like, they're challenging me where I am spiritually. It's definitely shifted it, but I haven't met anything I can't deal with. And I know that that's not true for some people. Some people, it's so profound that not only can they not go back in the woods again, they don't even want to talk about it again. Yep. They can't talk about it with their spouse. They don't want their spouse to mention to it. It's just, it can drive families apart. It can break apart a person's mental faculties. That shouldn't happen when you see an undocumented mammal.
Right. Exactly.
Nope. Yep. It really does. It really changes people. It changed me big time. It changed everything. I think about it every day now.
Mhm.
since that first experience I had. And then there's been so many in between, but
Yeah, Nate, do you
changed
ever
your whole
wish
life.
to, Nate, do you ever want to go back and say,
No.
I don't
Huh?
want to know, I don't want to think about this all the time. You wouldn't trade it?
No, I don't think so. I wouldn't.
Wait, what
It's
do you,
not.
Shawn, maybe?
No, I know. No,
Would I take the blue pill? Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd probably take the blue pill and go
You
back.
would?
Yeah. I honestly, I can't. When I go to the woods to hunt now, it's just, oh my God, I'm scared out of my fucking mind. But I still go. I kind of wish I would have never seen it and never. I don't know, man. That's
I get it.
kind of.
I get it.
I hunting for me is, for my entire life, has been like, that's my thing. That's what I do. I love it. I love it. And the peace that I had in the woods, it's gone. There's no peace. I'm always listening for other shit or looking for other things and paranoid. And what if, that 1 in a million asshole Bigfoot wants to tear my head off today?
Mm-hmm.
So I go armed, and whether or not my bullets would do anything, it gives me a little peace of mind.
Peace of mind. You're right.
Of course, I saved the last bullet for myself.
As I know it's a horrible thing to say, but I'm in agreement. That's not a way I'd want to go out.
Yeah, I don't want to go out being drunk. Have you seen that movie that Bobcat Goldthwait did? What is that movie?
I haven't seen it.
It's a good one. I heard holy shit. You see them getting drug out of their tent and just I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I hear you. And I get it too, Shawn. I do, because,
whether they're that, I don't think that they're all that way at all. I think that if they were, you'd most experience, if they wanted me, they'd have me by now.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean,
but there's that one asshole that you don't know about.
Right, exactly.
My greatest fear would always have been, and it probably is why I so invested time in this phenomenon, is my greatest fear, and probably still is that I would have a boring life. Like that to me was like always my, like, what kind of shenanigans can I get into here? I'll join the Navy on a whim and take off for 6 years. Well, it's because I didn't want to have a boring life in little Eugene, Oregon. My life has constantly been chasing down spontaneous moments that didn't seem boring, and this fit totally into that category, still does. And so that moment of being drug off out of my tent, that kind of adrenaline thought process of like, okay, if that happens, if I get drug off, that would be more that would be a better moment than dying in a hospital, overloaded with chemo drugs. Like, now I don't know if I'd actually feel like that. I've got a son now and blah, blah, blah. There's consequences to thinking that way, and you put yourself in harm's way. But I'm wired that way. Like I, kind of run towards the danger as much as I can, or am allowed to now. And but I haven't been in danger with these things, which I should have been, right? Like if we're talking about something, do what it can do. And I think it's mainly because of letting the phenomena come to you. Like, I think when you go into their area, like if you're hunting like you are, Shawn, your competition for a food source, your competition for their young, you're a threat in some way, you're hypersensitive towards the fear factor, they're feeding off of that. And there's a different dynamic going on at that point. And so there's an exchange of, fear in a different setting. But if you're just hanging back at a farm or hanging back at your house and something crazy starts to happen, it's usually very passive It seems to be a whole different type of experience for those moments. But if you're just out hiking in their area, I don't think it's looked at the same way. I've been out in the woods with guys that were well armed, and I go out armed now too because of the amount of tweakers out here. I mean, we got a
Yeah.
homeless problem that is flourishing out in the woods now, and I want to come back alive, so I go out with my AR, my 22, whatever. And whatever's happening here, they're constantly looking at your motives. Like if your motive is to go out there and protect your family and you got a gun, I think that's noted by the Bigfoots.
I think so too.
Do you guys agree with that?
I
Yeah.
do. I've come to feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I have come to feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
I think they know they can sense intent.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I'll be honest with you, my second encounter was extremely scary. I soiled myself and all, and she saw my rifle over my shoulder and gave me the eyes, go ahead, try to pull it off your shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
You do, we're gonna have issues. If you don't, we're gonna, you go your way, I go mine. We have no issues. And I think that was the defining moment where they kind of realized that I was not a threat.
Right.
I gained gained their trust, maybe. My first couple encounters scared the ever loving shit right out of me, and I'm not gonna lie to you about it. Where my wife, on the other hand, had an encounter with the alpha male back in 2016 from 25 feet away, and she was completely content with it. She said it was a moment. God, how did she word it? An enlightening moment, where a moment of admiration between one another. And God, for a 110-pound woman, it's more a bigger set than most men have. But yeah, I think they can definitely sense when there's a threat, like most animals, right? I mean,
yeah, and I think
I
people
should have said that.
Well, people should go out more often with women and children, not because they're bait, but because
they
seem
trust
to
them more.
they level out the God-given male energy that we have as protectors.
Yes.
And they bring a different quality to camp. And
that's right.
And maybe it's not a woman and child. Maybe it's a different. I believe laughter is huge when you're out in the field. Finding someone that has good energy with you, and
Sure.
they can bounce like a little transmitter and put off a better signal. And I think these things love to sit back and watch human interaction and good nature vibes. Like when people are smoking and joking and having a good time around a campfire, I think that's just like right on, like they're just right out there watching this whole shenanigan go on, and just they want to be as funny as you and come up with their own little bit of entertainment as well. So
that's when we get the most action happen. You put it perfectly. We go out back. We have a spring out back, natural artesian. It's beautiful, and there's just something about it that's magical. Is not the right word, but for lack of a better term, that's what I'll use. But there's just something special about it, and we have a spot there. We set up camp, and I'm going to tell you this: one of the gentlemen we do the the roundtable show with made a very good point last week. He's found over the years he's had long-term interaction with a certain group, and he's found they have on wherever you may be on a site, they'll have their area, you have a neutral area, and you have yours, and he has found as long as you respect those terms, you're all right. And I've kind of found the same thing. And I think that spring is where, we camp out and where we get to build a fire, and they'll come in and check us out. We'll see their eyes and whatnot. So I think that's kind of, You know where I'm at, that's the neutral territory that we have.
But
You know, I mean,
springs are a hot spot in general in the paranormal world.
absolutely, absolutely.
You know, a natural artesian spring was coming out of the ground at Daryl's property. It
Oh
was
wow, okay. Yep.
where one of the spots they saw cloaking was right over a spring. You go up the McKenzie to a point where a buddy of mine named Todd Bailey, him and his son had an encounter at a natural spring up the McKenzie. And this was one of the first areas where these what would become extended experiencers, a father and son camping alone, were talking about basketball tennis shoes around the campfire. And it was just a back and forth between a father who was out of work and his kid who needed basketball shoes. Like, well, how are we going to get these shoes now that I'm out of work? Well, they're having Bigfoot activity come in slowly as they're talking about these basketball shoes. They end up getting scared out of the camp and coming back into the campsite the next day with me to extract all their camping material they left behind. And sitting below a bag of cherry tomatoes is a pair of tennis shoes, the same size as the kid needs.
Whoa.
Right, left foot, laces tied. And then going into a spring were 3 juvenile tracks. You can see the toes, the heel, the whole thing. So, you know, we talk about the Nephilim, and I want to have that conversation because, you know, I went to Sunday school too. But whatever's happened here along the way with the genealogy of the Nephilim, right? Because a third of the angels, right, supposedly fell with Lucifer and impregnated different mammals on this earth, even post-flood, right? And maybe they're the great mound builders, but I don't know how much of their spirit has been corrupted in that bloodline compared to where our bloodline is. Their bloodline almost seems more pure at times than the human bloodline.
Oh,
So there is this, and that's, you know, hard for traditional Christians to hear because it sounds like I'm leaning with the devil. But I'm not. I'm talking about behavior. You know, now maybe that's a bait and switch game by the devil to ensnare a child to go down this corrupted path of looking into the supernatural. Okay, I mean, that's a longer conversation to have. You're gonna have to watch that whole kid's life play out and say, yeah, after that day you left him the shoes, you know, he became a drug-addled crazy person. These are all things that at what point do you just look at the pattern of behavior of these human type beings with magical powers? As Rich says, they're undocumented citizens with magic powers. And it's like, okay, that's a good way to say it, man.
It is.
Yeah. And so that was a very profound moment, seeing that happen, you know, because you hear incredible stuff from people, but unless you go out and have these incredible moments, it doesn't change the way you address the community about this. So I used to be kind of timid. In fact, I would even get a stutter when I would speak about this because I was so apprehensive about changing the narrative in front of, you know, the big apers out there that had the podium. And I was like, oh God, how am I really going to talk about this? You know, I have to have all of the facts. I have to have the best, you know, PowerPoint and all this stuff. It's just like, no, just relive the moment and, you know, the rest of it will come. And so when you have these moments here that are so profoundly life-changing, people listen because they're like, oh, thank God, you know, I don't care if you're stammering when you speak about it. Just get it out there and the rest will happen. And the UFO community is way beyond us right now. You know, we're talking about disclosure in a way that is just kind of common speak now. Like the Pentagon every other month seemed to release, you know, packets of information on UFOs and aliens. And here we are barely able to have the conversation about disappearing footprints. They have to, I didn't even hear this theory that Bigfoot is reportedly walking backwards
Yeah.
out of their footprints
You
for
heard
maybe,
about a rank pen deck too. Yeah.
yeah, maybe miles at a time. They're carefully walking out of their footprints. Well, I think monkeys do stuff like that, but
Some of them.
I don't think they go for hundreds of footsteps backwards. Maybe momentarily they backtrack like that. I know Jeff Meldrum talks about working in a chimpanzee enclosure and seeing something similar happen while he was in there. Maybe he was trying to persuade me to think about the trackways a little bit differently than saying it's magic. But sometimes it is magic. Sometimes that's all the
Yeah.
only word you got left.
If these were natural, somebody would have I would have a head on my wall if they were natural, just regular animals. And
You're saying, Shawn.
the Nephilim point, those angels were given free will, just like we have free will. So I don't think they're all evil. You know,
No.
I think that some of them probably have real regrets about what they did when they did it. But these are offspring. These are descendants.
Right.
So
Yeah, they can't help what they are. It's literally like the sins of the father
Yeah.
visiting the son, and the son can do nothing. There's not enough penance in the world for what the sins of the father did. So if that is the case with them, then they have, and I didn't, sometimes these conversations go here, but they need as much redemption as we do. So they shouldn't be cast out based upon the lineage and the sins of corruption, because that's, it gets into a larger conversation about what the nature of us is. And getting into this phenomena really is like looking into a big mirror. You get an idea of like, oh, this is where my ego is. Okay, this is where I am in the spectrum here of, understanding incredible, aspects of life, and how much of my emotions are centered around reaction rather than understanding. So it is interesting just to watch what happens to you along this journey. And that's what this documentary coming out called Flash of Beauty, which is done by these, I'm a co-producer on this documentary as well, because there was a lot of voices in here. I felt like we're going to get missed out and skipped over, like Rich, for example. Rich has never been in a doc before, but he should have been long ago. So just putting people in the right place to do this doc, it looks at the perspective of what happens to these witnesses along the way, how are they changed, and understanding the stranger side of Sasquatch and how different it is to be profoundly changed by the paranormal than it is to be profoundly changed by seeing an undocumented mammal. And the difference is fundamental. And most of these people will have this conversation with you. The Bigfooters of the world that all show up at these conferences will have this paranormal conversation with you if you turn the camera off, or if you get them a Jack and Coke. They'll have the conversation with you. They'll tell you what they really think. But most of the time they want the cameras on them to tell you what the public thinks. And I get that to a degree, because it's you slowly want to ease them in to the fact that Bigfoot's real, and make it nice lukewarm water for them and comfortable. But this is a frustrating, uncomfortable, bizarre, life-changing conversation, and it belongs in the hallways of UFO conferences and ghost conferences.
John Bendernagel had that same sort of he didn't want to talk about the woo side of shit. He wanted to talk about the flesh and blood and the tracks. Let's get the monkey. Let's get people to believe in the monkey, and then we can get weird. That's where he was.
Yeah.
So I I was a pure flesh and blood guy, but I've bounced way out of that.
Shawn
It's
and I,
too much weird shit.
we were in the
Way too much
monkey
weird
camp
shit.
together. We, Shawn
And
and
I think we both kind of transitioned out at the same time.
the same time. Well, we started the show 2 years ago. One of our shows we started together 2 years ago, and Shawn and I realized that you know, not that there's anything bad with the belief. I don't look down on anyone's beliefs, but we both realized that where we were
more
at,
to it.
there's just more freaking to it.
More to it, and and if you're in a monkey group and you're hanging out and talking to these guys, I've got people that I still really respect and love that think I'm a nut.
Oh, they think we've lost our mind. John.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
The one way that people can embrace the fact that they can get results with looking into this paranormal link to Bigfoot is by putting recorders in these hot spots, because whatever the permission slip is with cameras and Bigfoot, it's not there. But leaving out audio equipment, there's this permission slip, and they will tell you more about themselves with a recorder than any other device that I found so far. Now I just got
very well said.
Yeah, so included in that is language, right? And
yes,
so you can start to hear Bigfoot language. You don't have to listen to the Sierra sounds. You can go get it yourself. But you have to believe, first of all, that they're going to know where your recorder is, what your motives are when you leave it there. And they're going to do strange things to your recorder that don't seem linked to Bigfoot. And we just got done doing a conference about anomalous sounds related to Bigfoot. And one of the precursor sounds that nobody really talks about, kind of like these chalky white handprints, are these knock and tap sounds to the mic head. And a lot of people just kind of leave that one alone. Like, I guess everyone's recorder is broken and everyone's getting these knock and finger tap sounds to the mic head. But those sounds shouldn't be happening to recorders that are left inside bank safes, or a good safe where you can have sound discipline, or in a shoebox, or buried underground, or put inside a house. You shouldn't get finger snaps or what sound like pop or lip sounds. So these precursor sounds seem to be related to the activity coming closer to your recorder. And that's when I think things will start to get interesting, when people when you pay attention to those sounds and think they're important, then the other sounds will happen, like language. Like Ron and Moorhead talks a lot about strange tuning fork sounds that no one was paying attention to. There would be, these knocking sounds and car door slam sounds around their microphone. These other sounds were busily being looked at as being debunked. No one could debunk them because of given the location. But I think something else is happening when your interests change, that, I've noticed how you approach this recorder here. They seem to key in on the fact that you've noticed that. And thus begins the greater approach to your recorder. And then you may start to hear what sounds like, in our case, we recorded language, we recorded things being dropped off near the recorder being picked up, and there'd be no footsteps. There'd be no approach and no exit with these recorders a lot of the times. And I don't know the difference between recorders and game cameras, but there is a difference to them, and I don't know why.
Big time. Yeah, the amount of cameras out there in the world used by hunters.
What were you going to say, Nate?
I was going to say, didn't Ron mention there was a time where they were in their camp, or I don't know if it was in that big tree, where they heard a giant ruckus, like all their stuff was being strewn across their camp.
Right.
And they came out to check. They were thinking, this is going to be a mess. They came out to check, and nothing was out of place. Is that right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it is. It's just like a haunting. Like if you went and investigated the Amityville, horror house, they would tell the same stories about, oh my God, it sounded like there were a million people breaking china down in the kitchen, and we come down there and there's nothing, or there's a stack of pennies, or the chairs were all pulled out from the dining room table. This is all in the world of the extended experiencer and Bigfoot. And a lot of people I guess people don't know it. Like, I guess I'll give them credit. People maybe just don't know that that's the case. I think a lot of the seasoned Bigfooters, certainly the BFRO, knows this. I mean, they have a whole area called the Flats where they keep, smuggled reports for the insiders to say yay or nay on. And some of these reports are pretty outlandish and talk about shit like we're talking about. Some of it's just like whatever, but Scott Taylor is a BFRO guy. He also was one of the Boeing lead engineers here in Seattle, recently retired, and total flute player. He spoke here at the Sasquatch Anomalous Sound Conference where we did. And he's one of the first guys that said, hey, I'm working with an extended experiencer, and he's leaving out Scrabble letters on a stump to see if they'll communicate. So I said, well, that's a fantastic idea. I'll do that too. So I made some little Scrabble letters. I kind of took little blocks of wood like this, and I wrote A, B, C, D on all the different corners and left them out on a little rock and asked, actually, I laid out a statement which said, thank you for gifts. Thank you for the gifts. And a couple days later, we got the word welcome with the blocks that I'd left behind. Now I didn't have enough letters to spell the letter E or C. So they used the number 3 to make the E, and they couldn't make a C. So they used a 4. So underneath it, was a response. Now I wouldn't have got that unless I talked to this Boeing engineer about Scrabble letters. Now Scott had a whole other theory. He says that they're using Aramaic and Hebrew to spell out some of these responses at these extended experiencers, which gets into possibly the book of Genesis and Enoch and the Nephilim. But that wasn't the case with us. I mean, either somebody hoaxed the word welcome, which I can't discount that because I didn't leave out cameras. It could have been a hoax. But given the things that I saw that happened to me with my own eyes, and still does, I mean, they're just constant.
Yeah, something similar happened to me with Nordic runestones.
Yeah,
my wife has a set. We moved back from North Carolina and moving back into the cabin. She was couldn't find him anywhere. Nowhere to be found. We had unpacked everything. She knew where she had put them. And she found it. She did end up finding him. Only one she couldn't find was the water sign. Okay. One night I'm walking, my wife had left with my daughter and my son. They had went to town, and I walk out onto the porch, and I go to step down, and I look down, and there's the runestone after months of us being back in the cabin. Could that have happened some other way? Yes, but it's a little strange.
Well, and it's always it's like this. Like, it's an incredible thing for you, but it's totally worthless to your neighbor. It blows your mind. It's like, oh my God, there's a penny sitting. I know that penny. It's 1947 copper penny. It's sitting on the kitchen counter. If you told somebody that at the grocery store, they say check your meds. But how crazy it is.
Yeah. My wife has been left marbles on several occasions.
Yeah. Right. Which is so good, because they say we've lost our marbles, and sometimes we really do lose our frickin' marbles. Yeah. Marbles are a big one. Marbles and glass.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
Things like that. Yeah.
Yep. And on several occasions, she's can I prove that they were left by a Sasquatch? No, but it's just very bizarre. Along with you tack it on all the other bizarre shit going on. I mean, on top of the sightings and tracks and all the other evidence. I mean, God, you gotta.
Yeah. I mean, these are the blocks I had out here earlier. I don't know if people can see this. Let's see here. These are examples of glyph shapes that we would get left in the hotspot areas. Here's a double X. Can't really see that one too well. 4 lines in a row.
4 lines in a row?
Yeah, here's like an asterisk symbol they would leave and little star symbols. Now, these were such obvious glyphs. This wasn't in a forest. This was in, a gravel bed up against the trailer or near the garage. And so, these sticks, they're always the same sticks, basically. They're 4 twigs, like maple twigs or something like that. So walking through the forest and seeing a glyph, God bless you, but I don't think a lot of that's glyphs. I think it's forest junk. And you have, wishful thinking. But sometimes the witness knows better. They know the land better than you do. And you're going to just have to listen to them and say, okay, it's a glyph. Now what do we do? Well, I say leave an object in the glyph to test it out to see if it's legit, because if it's a weighty object set in the middle of a glyph, it shouldn't get moved out easily, especially if it happens immediately. And a lot of times this phenomena will happen as soon as you turn your back. And it could be a dramatic difference. Like if you found a glyph and left a marble in it, and you found that marble sitting in your kitchen sink, or you find that marble balancing on your rearview mirror, these are things you should pay attention to, right? Like you've either got a hoaxer or a haunting or Bigfoot, or maybe you got all 3. But I tend to think that most of the time this is Bigfoot stuff happening.
Definitely.
The 4 lines in a row. Can I see that block again?
Oh, let's see here. Well, we got 3 lines in a row. Where's the 4 lines? It's so funny being a 45-year-old guy with little children's blocks that I made. Let's see here. I've got the 3 lines. Here we go. Well, this is just an example of, the 4 lines in a row.
Okay. Now, are you familiar with the band Black Flag?
Oh, yeah.
Henry Rollins.
Never thought of that.
There you go. The Bigfoot is a punk rocker. That's
right.
What it is.
Well, we'd also get I would find 3 long scratches in front of my trailer in the gravel bed. That was one of the first things we noticed. Is it looked like a 3-toed bald eagle came landing in front of the stairway to my trailer and skidded out the gravel there into the hard pan. And it was just these 3 long scratches. Well, if you're freaked out by the sign of the Trinity, or the mocking of the Trinity, it's like, oh my God, the devil's here, and he scratched the mocking of the Trinity in front of my trailer. But we never got any signs of the devil prowling the property there. It was just a lot of convergence of mysteries, and it's in these hot spots. And if people want to get to know the phenomena and have some fun, like I said, they can go to Montana and they can go visit Joe Hauser and experience the phenomena with him for a small fee. I would love to go back. I was there last year and we had the best time. They have a lot of mosquitoes. So if you don't love mosquitoes, Montana may not be the best fit for you, but the kind of stuff that we experienced in Montana was super cool. But you can also go to these hot spots where these place names are, which go on a map, look up a place name that sounds bonkers, like, Wendigo or Devil or Spirit, or there's actually a cool one that we just found out here in Oregon. These Bigfooters had an experience at a place called Baboon Creek. And it's been called Baboon Creek since the 1920s. How does a place get called Baboon Creek? And what kind of Bigfoot do they see, right? Like maybe it's
Yep.
like a canine looking Bigfoot, right? Maybe it's not a Bigfoot at all, but
And that's the other
anyway.
issue. Yeah.
Hey,
Go
if you
ahead.
ever go, Toby, if you ever make another trip over there to Montana, let me know. I'll meet you over there.
Okay. Yeah. And I loved Wallace. We went to Wallace and had a great time. They didn't give a shit about COVID. It was just party on. I'd never seen a town, they love their drink. If people don't know
Yeah.
Wallace, they call themselves the center of the universe, first of all, which any place, calling themselves the center of the universe has this good sense of humor about it. And they walk around with their red Solo cups and, it also has a really haunted hotel actually too. So yeah, loved the Idaho experience. Definitely will let you know about Montana.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. So if you guys want to learn more about what's going on in my world, I do a show called Strange Brow Radio. In fact, after we're done here tonight, I'll be editing an episode together with Cindy Goodbrake, who is an Idaho native.
I know Sid pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'll be putting an episode with her together, and we talk about, the stranger side of the world, not just Bigfoot stuff. I do these choose your own adventure YouTube shows called Strange Strolls, where people can vote on where I go and what I bring with me. And so I'll be going to Maury Island here soon. And
What's it called, Tobe?
Well, the YouTube channel is called Strange Brow Radio, and then I do these monthly shows where people can vote on where I go. So it's usually some crazy location. This one I'll be going to Maury Island. People voted that I head over there overnight. And then we got this documentary coming out called Flash of Beauty. We'll be having the directors speak with Marcia K. Moore and Ira Wolfnosen in May. And it's going to be a conference on hidden ancient cultures, including the Paracas people, the elongated skull people,
very cool.
Sasquatch, and power spots. And that's what we're really talking about right now, are these power spots.
All right.
Places where the veil is thin. The government's known about these places. They studied these places. They put their important buildings, their Masonic buildings in particular, on or near power spots, in my opinion, from what we've seen. And they actively study what these power spots do and how they move about, because they're generally liminal. They change periodically. They don't just stay in one spot. They shift and fluctuate. And it might take a government funding to study them at that point, because you can't just set up shop in one area. You have to be transitional in order to do it. So that's what we're going to talk about in May. That's I don't know if we have a firm date on that. I believe it's the beginning of May 2nd, if I'm remembering correctly. And that will also be, what's that?
Sorry, is that going to be near you somewhere, that conference?
Yeah. So because of COVID, we're going to do it online, but we're going to be in Arlington, Washington as a group. And so I think there'll be 12 of us, and we're just going to, put it out online live so people can interact. Just like we're doing here. I'm going to invite people on Zoom, give them a Zoom link so they can come on and talk to Marcia, and they'll be a part of the conference, along with her, because she doesn't really want to do a conference, a traditional. She wants to have a conversation with people about the work that she's done, and maybe, some of now this is another conversation talking about the Paracas people and the elongated skulls. But I suggest that maybe you do that I've done it and looking into the world of Bigfoot, because there seems to be a link between the longheads of South America and understanding of Sasquatch. And it's not just based upon the sagittal crest. It's also based upon where these things like to hang out, and the ruins that were left behind here in the Pacific Northwest also coincide with these stranger place names. And it's a rabbit hole all amongst itself. So that's what's coming my way. This is what I'm doing. And it's been a busy last year, and it'll be another busy year this time.
How will we be able to find that documentary, Tobe?
Yeah, so the documentary will be out. It'll be either be on Amazon, I'm sure, be released out on one of the major platforms. Right now, there's a teaser that we've shown on Vimeo, and it's just a little 4-minute teaser. But you know, just in the editing process of this documentary, there's already been the phenomena, just like we've talked about. One of the editors is this actor from the movie Total Recall. In fact, he played the part, I believe, where Arnold Schwarzenegger gets his memory erased. So he's like one of the main scientists in that role. Well, he's the guy editing this film. And the other day, you know, he's not familiar at all with any of the shit we've talked about tonight. He's just this actor / editor. And his wife leaves a cup of Starbucks on the roof of their car. And he's like, hey, go get that piece of trash off our sedan. And he's grabbing the coffee. He goes to pour it out, and out pops a quarter. Now, that may sound like a magic trick, you know, or maybe a crow did it. But it's those kind of nuanced, weird things that we're talking about that I think count to something paying attention to what you're involved with. So pretty interesting. It's called Flash of Beauty, Bigfoot Revealed, and that'll be out this year.
I know I've told you this before, Tobe, but feel free to post any of that on our pages and our groups.
Okay.
You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. As soon as we get that
Please
coming
do.
about. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
That was
probably getting to
phenomenal.
be about that time, isn't it? We've ran kind of late tonight.
It
But
is unfortunate.
yeah, hey, thanks a lot for coming on, Tobe. You've been a great guest. I've loved talking to you, man.
Yeah.
It's
Let's
one of
hang
our
out sometime.
best.
Let's go out and have a beer sometime when I'm out your way.
Absolutely.
That'd be phenomenal.
Absolutely.
We'll make
That
that
would be-
happen. We're not too far apart from each other, so
All right, man. Nice
Well,
to
you're
meet
far
everybody.
from me, but I will drive out, man. I want to hang out.
I'll meet Shawn in Nebraska and we'll head out.
Okay, guys.
thanks again, Tobe, for
All
coming
right.
on.
Yeah. Have a
Thanks,
good
Tobe.
evening.
Appreciate it, man.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night. And we're done.